This podcast is brought to you by Legend Comics and Coffee in Omaha, Nebraska, located in scenic downtown Benson. They got a new location. It's absolutely gorgeous. Check it out. And by listeners like you. Go to Patreon/Two-Headed Nerd. Become a patron. Support this show.
Once, they were two best friends managing a comic book store. But when an innocent blood oath went wrong, the two found themselves trapped in the same body, imprisoned in a strange pyramid made of long boxes, buried deep below their hometown, where they are doomed to discuss comic books until the end of time. They were once Joe and Matt. Now they are known as the Two-Headed Nerd. And this is their podcast.
Showtime!
Sorry, what's wrong? Broadcasting from the Ziggurat at Omaha in caverns deep below the metro area, where we destroyed most of the books we read for today's show thanks to the sharp fingers on these new gloves Matt developed. It's our pleasure to welcome you to another back issue show, episode 767 of the Two-Headed Nerd Comic Book Podcast. I'm your head number one, the internet's Joe Patrick.
I'm your head number two. My name is Matt Baum, and you gotta admit, with sharp fingers, look pretty good on our boy Jean Paul Valley's Batsuit, but not good for much else other than, I guess, carving up Batman's rogues gallery, if that's what you choose to do.
Kind of a one-use gadget.
Turns out that life in an underground cavern full of comics pays off when Joe and I decide to catch up on a classic storyline we have never read for one of our Slack Issues episodes. In this show, the Knight Nerds are going to reteam to finally finish our reading of Knightfall Part 2 as part of our MLK Day holiday programming, because we couldn't finish it over Christmas break. We got busy. People got sick. Stuff happened.
And to be fair, it's just Knightfall. This is just Part 2 of our own cover.
Yes. So make sure your finger, shoulder pad, and leg blade things are as sharp as possible, because we're jumping back to the 90s when DC tried to take back their market share from Image Comics by introducing a new, darker Batman with claws. It's Slack Issue time in the Ziggurat.
How to say this classic story? It's like issues with Joe and Matt. Oh yeah!
We reunite once again with the Knight Nerds for Part 2 of Knightfall. And let me tell you, when we left off, Batman was in a really bad way. But we'll reset that in just a second here. First, I want to say hey to Hugo and his dad, John Tvrdik. Welcome back, boys. And Mr. Joey Mickeliunas, or as we like to call him, Joey Mick. Huh?
We call him Mr. Mick.
Hey, guys. Hey.
Welcome.
Excited to be back.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So we're still in a pretty good place.
The good news is that the slide downwards does not start until after Nightfall is over.
Right. Joe, I'm going to hand it over to you to reset where we were for our little listeners so we can pick up where we left off.
In part 1 of Knightfall, you'll remember we watched Gotham descend into chaos as Bane set his plan into motion. After unleashing the inmates of Arkham Asylum, Batman faced a relentless gauntlet of his greatest villains: Joker, Scarecrow, Zsasz, Firefly, and more. Two-Face was also somewhere out there doing things, which we'll find out here shortly. Each battle pushed Bruce Wayne closer to his breaking point. In a now iconic moment, Bane broke Batman's back, declaring himself the new king of Gotham. Today, we dive into the aftermath of The Broken Bat and witness the rise of John Paul Valley. Jean? I call him Jean Paul, like Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah, he is Jean Paul.
Yeah, Jean.
But I think that you like to call him Jean Paul, though, Matt.
That's just what I'm talking about. I'm like, he's one of the dudes. Yeah, Jean Paul.
Okay.
He is Jean Paul Valley.
We witness the rise of Jean Paul Valley's Batman. Will he bring order back to Gotham or make things worse? Knight Nerds, let's get into it. But first, all of these notes, including the intro I just read, are courtesy of Hugo's dad, John Tvrdik. He took the reins on the Knightfall mission.
Somebody
and we
had
thank you
to
for it.
because somebody had to. So
Right. And if I had done it, the episodes would be 3 hours long.
It's true.
And nobody wants that.
it's true.
No matter how much you think you might want to.
Now, these are impressively concise, so well done.
Yeah, my original pass to each one of these was probably like 4 times as long, and then I just went through and just struck. So
Like if this were me, I would probably be researching what Bibbo was up to in the Superman books at the time that these were going on, because I had to know. Bibbo, check in.
All right, so we start off with Detective Comics 664, released June 1993, written by Chuck Dixon, pencils by Graham Nolan, inks by Scott Hanna, who inks the hell out of Graham Nolan in this issue.
He does. Oh, yeah.
Colors by Adrian Roy, letters by John Costanza. Another phenomenal cover by Kelly Jones and Bob LaRose.
Oof.
Who Rules the Night? So this is right after where his back is broken. So opening with an amazing splash page. The creators give us Bane, fresh off breaking Batman's back, throwing Bruce's body off a skyscraper. He hits the ground, and then it's another amazing splash page of him just lying there.
I love the guy that's just like, ha, screw you, Batman. And he bounced like
If his back was not already broken.
he bounced all the way down too. I would argue for everything that I said about it not being violent enough when he actually broke the back, for it looking like he protected him, this is the most brutal thing Bane has done to Batman so far. He threw him off a building onto the street.
You just see
I
him
mean,
bounce as he goes down.
From the perspective of that second page where he's holding, we see it from behind Bane's back, and we see down to the street. He's probably 2 stories up.
At least. So
So he's not like on top of a skyscraper or anything, but he ain't on ground level either.
No. He's also on top of the Bob Kane Art Museum that he throws him off.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really nice.
And so he bounces down. Well, he might be more. See the first page, that page with the perspective view of the street is kind of at odds with the next street, because the fall that he makes seems like farther than 2 stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He passes more than 2 banks of windows. So.
But I would argue it's more brutal because you've got Graham Nolan versus the previous issue was Jim Aparo, just kind of doing his thing.
Yeah.
That's a shit on R.I.P. Jim.
Yeah.
But,
Man's a legend, but we discussed he needs a little help in the inking department. If he doesn't have it, problems show. But this looks fantastic. This looks
And so, I mean, even if it was a 2-story fall, that'd kill any man. That
not an unconscious Batman with a broken back. He's going to be fine.
he bounces off of a couple of awnings that slow his fall very conveniently. Yeah.
So then we get Alfred, Robin, and Jean Paul show up disguised as paramedics, which is great. They retrieve Bruce's body before officials can take him in. Back in the cave, Alfred confirms Bruce's back is broken, and they need a special drug to keep Bruce from being paralyzed. Robin and Jean Paul head out to find it, and of course, Jean Paul can't resist, but he puts on his ridiculous ninja outfit.
Oh, God. Yuck. That ninja
It's so
outfit.
terrible.
That
It's
outfit.
so bad. And I also love that none of the cops are like, well, somebody should probably get in the ambulance or follow the ambulance. This is Batman,
Yeah.
Bad guys tend to take shots at him, and now would be the time if you want to finish this off.
Yeah.
But they're like, get him out of here.
Follow
Oh, my
another
God.
squad car. Do something.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, no one is going to follow him even. They're just like, go on, get out of here. We got to clean up all this bat blood or something. I don't know.
The color's
Well, wasn't there-
fantastic though, with
what-
the red and blue lights bathed in the
It's
color.
beautiful.
Adrian Roy
Yeah,
did
it's
such a
beautiful smart.
We see Harvey say, "Oh, but Commissioner," well, he says it might have been some of the Batman's own people, Commish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Gordon
Yeah.
gives this kind of weary smile. And then he realizes it was probably Alfred. Well, he doesn't know about Alfred, but you know what I mean. He knows that it was Batman's agents that picked him up.
And then
It's nice to see Harvey having like this very kind of like human understanding moment while still crushing a donut.
Yeah, he's still eating.
Yeah, but
give him his donuts.
yeah,
It's-
and also Harvey, well, he is certainly a buffoon. He's not an idiot, and he is
Totally.
a good detective.
Yeah.
totally.
And so he knows what's up.
He's just got a carb addiction that he can't kick, and it's
I mean, look,
and it's a 24-hour-a-day carb addiction.
if you had to solve murders, you'd be that way too.
I guess so.
Yeah, in one of the craziest cities. Yeah. So then, meanwhile, Joker and Scarecrow bemoan that their mayor kidnapping plans went nowhere. And then their relationship starts to fray. Scarecrow gasses Joker. And in another fantastic moment, Joker hams up a faux fear reaction until he lets on that the gas does absolutely nothing to him. And then after this, the Joker beats Scarecrow silly with a chair.
Have we established this before that like the Scarecrow gas just doesn't work on Joker?
When I was a kid, I remember this being a big thing.
Yeah.
This was revealed. So I think this is the first.
Well, but I thought that I almost definitely maybe I'm just kind of accidentally overlapping my read of the second half with our discussion of the first half, but I thought for sure Joker at least mentioned it.
Maybe there was something.
I think that he does in Night.
But this might be the first time Scarecrow actually gasses him.
Yeah,
I do believe so.
I know we talked about Batman and we were like, I can't believe this like just affects him. He doesn't have anything to like stop it, you know,
Yeah.
or he's not
Right.
used or isn't built up a
Talking about
tolerance. But I think they're just insinuating now the Joker's just so crazy that it's like, what do you do? Make me crazier? No, come on.
Right. Yeah. Elsewhere, Scarface and Sacco end their feud in a shootout with the ventriloquist bleeding out alone, which was just wild.
Yeah,
that is brutal if you really think about what he's doing to himself.
yeah, he shoots himself in the hand, basically.
Yeah. that scene is wild. I completely forgot about
Well,
like,
I mean, also
like,
consider you get sound effects that are brada, 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 and then you also get sound effects
Blam,
that
blam.
are just blam, 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 which means he is shooting both guns.
Both his hands.
at
Yeah.
this- so
Both
he's
an
blowing
Uzi
both
and
of
a
his
six-shooter.
hands off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, blah, 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 blah. It's just like blowing his hands off, basically.
Right. Yeah.
So then the team, they end up obviously getting the drugs. They get it from the hospital, like the cops, Gordon and team sort of help them out, which is really great. Then the issue ends with another really great splash page with Alfred having administered the drug to Bruce, and he, Robin, and Jean Paul just start the, quote, hardest part, the waiting.
Did anyone look? Is this a real thing? This drug? Is this real?
I looked it up. It is a real
Same.
drug, but
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
not specific to this. But
It's just like a thing like where it stops swelling or something like that, more or less.
It like treats arthritis and blood disorder.
Like a powerful
Yeah,
anti-inflammatory or something.
Because when I first read it,
they act like it's like this universe's, I don't know, like life-saving drug. The way they talk about it is it's almost like really hard to get, but really they just have to like go to a pharmacy and steal some.
right.
It's not
Well, and
that.
they talk about it like it's broken back specific too.
Yeah, that's what I mean to say.
Decadron is a
Exactly.
controlled
Right.
substance, not widely available,
Yeah.
says Jean Paul.
So
Yeah.
We had to call in some favors. So, I mean, like, they don't even have to steal it, really, because it looks like Montoya and Bullock have procured it and met them outside.
I
Like,
love how they all work together on that, and they pull up in the car. The medic is like running
the
it
doctor
out.
runs it out to him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great. Great.
And then
then,
rather than come down to the car, they grapple hook it.
Jean Paul ninja grappling hooks it
Because
up.
they're ninjas.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I mean, hey, he ain't wearing this ninja costume for nothing. You know, it's even got toe shoes. and
Yeah.
everything.
It's for stealing drugs.
Yeah, you know, it's drug stealing outfit. Sure.
Decadron. Alfred says Decadron. It's specifically made for the treatment of spinal trauma. It's the only way to reduce the swelling, but only if it's administered in the next hour.
All right, we administer.
So
it.
it's not what heals him, but it's what keeps him.
It's going to
from,
keep the
like,
swelling down. Yeah.
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 So he's not
Keeps his
paralyzed.
injury from
It's
getting
real.
worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's not like they didn't like come up with some fantastical element. They were just like, no, let's go get this real thing. So,
But it's also kind of silly.
Yeah.
They weren't just like, oh shit, Wonder Woman, we need the purple healing ray. Can you get that over here?
Yeah.
Or something?
Get us
I
some
mean, honestly,
unobtainium.
why don't you call Wonder? I don't understand. Maybe the healing ray doesn't work on broken
Like
bones. I don't
Alfred
know.
knows Wonder Woman personally, knows her, like understands they work together. But you know,
You know what I like about this issue too, though, is like when a family member, and you're not to get super dark, but when somebody in your family like falls ill, how the family closes and
Yeah.
rallies.
yes,
Like when they show up as like the paramedics, it felt like that. Like closed ranks. Don't let anybody know what's going on. Take care of business.
Right.
It was really
Yeah.
aside
well
from
done.
aside from the ninja costume, like they really
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we begin Showcase 93, number 7. So this was, as Joe said, a sort of run of issues that would come out in the 90s, kind of more DC related, but still like in the Legends of the Dark Knight sort of anthology where you would just have different disparate stories going on. They were really
Yeah,
good.
it focused
Yeah.
on characters that weren't really getting the spotlight.
Yeah.
Or side stories that were maybe adjacent to other stories.
So this was released June 93, written by Doug Mensch, pencils by Klaus Janson, inks by Klaus Janson, and a phenomenal cover by Bill Sienkiewicz. This, by the way, in my opinion, you get bad Klaus Janson, you get good. This is really good Klaus Janson. I think this is beautiful.
His Two-Face, man.
Oh, his Two-Face is this the way he does the color everywhere. It's incredible.
I think parts of it are beautiful. I don't think all of it.
No, there are parts that are gnarly. There are parts that are gnarly, and that's Klaus. He's
You get what you get. You don't throw a fit. It's Klaus Janson.
Double cross.
It's like right after that amazing spread of Two-Face, there's like a panel on the next page that just look like Two-Face looks like a gorilla with like leaning on something purple and weird.
So this issue picks up right where the previous issue ended, like literally word for word, but it drives me nuts because Alfred and Jean-Paul are wearing different clothes. So they had a whole conversation about making these like be from like, continue, but like Klaus could not be bothered to, follow. Well, it is what it is.
Conspiracy theory time. They've obviously this is interrupting the flow of the Nightfall story. This is not taking place during Nightfall. Bruce is still Batman in this story. We're flashing back for some reason. Some part of me says that this was written before that, and someone decided, Showcase isn't selling that well. Let's tie it in Nightfall. See if we can boost the sales a little bit. Well, Klaus, can you go in and add a couple panels to that story and make it make sense? Because it barely has anything to do with what's going on in Nightfall.
I certainly like that better than them having thought it up afterwards and saying that, hey, we need a Two-Face story. Where was Two-Face during all this?
Yeah.
I will say, though, and so Hugo and I were discussing this before the recording, he really liked this. I'm going to kind of give if there's a skimmit in this whole Nightfall, it's the Two-Face story.
Yeah.
Because it just feels like every goddamn Two-Face story you ever read.
Absolutely.
And I'm just blah. Okay, let me get to the meat of the story. So Robin blames himself for Bruce's condition. So we have a flashback to a fight against Two-Face that happened pre-backbreaking. And in case you don't know Two-Face's origin, they have to show it to you because we did that every time in the 90s Batman comics, every time he was in a book. So the TLDR of an extremely convoluted Two-Face plot. Two-Face kills a former ally and leaves the body inside a two-headed dinosaur skeleton at the National History Museum. Ignoring Robin's pleas to arrest, Batman tracks him down and drives the Batmobile into his trap where there's an explosion and the Batman falls into the Gotham River. There's a lot more to it, but in my opinion, not worth your time.
No.
Well, I don't know why they did it either, but it's just a 2-part short story. Rather than being its own issue, it's 2 chapters in an anthology comic that was coming out at the same time.
Speaking of the next one, Nightfall, chapter 14.
A much more different cover by Glenn Fabry.
Yeah, the Glenn Fabry cover. It's pretty great. So Showcase 93, number 8, released also in June. So these came out very, very quickly, succession of each other. Written by Doug Mensch, pencils by Klaus Janson, inks by Klaus Janson, and cover by Glenn Fabry. Bad judgment. So Two-Face's goons pull Batman out of the Gotham Harbor, and then Two-Face does what he always does, which is stages a mock trial of Batman on the courthouse roof, sentencing him to death by coin flip. Batman escapes as the coin flips, and Robin arrives, scattering Two-Face's gang.
I disagree with that. I think that what Two-Face usually does is like blackmails himself.
Yeah, he usually does that too. That's the other go-to for Batman writers. Like,
that would be the
I'm different.
Thing.
Excellent insight from Hugo.
The whole time. Batman chases Two-Face to a construction site where they end up dangling from a girder. Two-Face nearly kicks Batman out, or like really steps on his fingers. But Robin intervenes, saving his mentor. Then weeks later, a comatose Bruce, now post, getting the drug from Alfred, wakes up and tells Robin that he actually made the right call coming in to save him. And, sweet little story, has a nice bow.
Yeah.
This is a little bit off track, but I think that the reason that the Batman the Animated Series trial episode is so good is because it's not run by Two-Face, it's run by the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
That is a great episode.
Yeah, very, very good call. Yeah, when he's in charge of his own trial, it's a little silly. Okay, so then we get to Batman 498, released in June 1993, written by Doug Minch, pencils by Jim Aparo, inks by Rick. How do you pronounce that, Rick?
Burchett?
Burchett?
Rick Burchett. Yep.
Rick Burchett. Cover by Kelly Jones, one of my favorite Kelly Jones covers of the run.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
I can't go with you on that journey, Jim.
Yeah, the Catwoman face.
I think Kelly Jones's Catwoman is deeply upsetting.
Yeah, her face.
No,
what's going on?
It's his Bane. His Bane is like
the Bane is great. The Bane is great.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I don't like his Bane mask though. The mask, it looks like he's like Sam Keith's like glorpy face. That
He's not doing a great job drawing it from an angle.
I was like, did they collaborate? Did he and Sam Keith collaborate? Because it looked very Sam Keithy, like more than normal.
Keith, yeah.
So Bruce awakes in the Batcave and Robin says the drug worked, which is just like Doug mentioned over this by that point. Bane and his goons show up to a mob boss meeting and ice a bunch of the goons, revealing his plan to take down all remaining gangs in Gotham, which I think is interesting. There's it's an interesting extension of his plan to break Batman. I think that they could have expanded on this a bit because his original plan was I'm going to go to Gotham, defeat the bat that's haunted me, whatever it was from the prison. And now he's like, nope, I have to take over. And I think there's something interesting to that like he kind of got poisoned by success and it wasn't enough, but really touch on that.
Or he might just be trying to show all the bad guys how bad they suck at this too. Like not only did I kick Batman's ass, now I'm in charge of all of you guys too.
Well, but I think that if you look back, even at the end of Vengeance of Bane, the one shot, and then throughout Nightfall, especially the Broken Bat issue, the theme of now Gotham will be mine, Gotham is mine, like he says that a lot.
Yeah.
And so maybe actually seeing him like, oh, when he says Gotham is mine, he meant taking over organized crime. That seems weird. I think that taking control of Gotham has always been his goal.
I get it, but he can't run for mayor,
Yeah, right, exactly. There are only so many avenues open to him.
Right, like Gotham is mine.
The city that Batman has protected. Now he is the destructor of it.
Big
no
bad.
Spoilers, but remember, like Tom King did the exact same shit in City of Bane.
Yeah,
and is like, don't send your sidekick in here, or I'm gonna kill your butler. And then he fucking did it.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I mean, I think it's great. I think it's cool that like it ended and then he didn't just stop. He just kind of kept going,
Mm-hmm.
So then his goons go on a killing spree, wiping out the majority of Gotham's gangs.
Bird, Zombie, and Trog.
The return of Bird, Zombie, and Trog. Sorry,
not Troll. Troll is a Rob Liefeld character.
Yeah, Trog.
Trog, right.
And then back at the cave, Bruce lets on that he feels nothing in his legs, knows his back is broken. Robin and Alfred decide that Bruce needs the same doctor who helped Tim's dad, who is also in a wheelchair. That's Dr. Chandra Consolving. And we just get a lot of just really nasty drawn pictures of Bane's mask because Jim Aparo does not know how to draw that face.
I will say though,
hold on,
Aparo's doing better here than he has done in some.
Well, it's
not great.
Burchett's
helping a lot. Yeah.
Rick Burchett is a fantastic artist and a great inker.
Yeah.
And his inks elevate anybody's work. And so he's really doing a lot here for Jim Aparo.
Definitely.
Bane still has the hairiest shoulders in the business.
Oh yeah.
But wasn't Chandra Consolving the psychiatrist that Bruce was sort of dating?
But she's also his back doctor.
Yeah, isn't she?
But she's not in a wheelchair. Oh, Tim's dad is in a wheelchair.
Tim's dad's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And his neighbor as well.
Yes, they're neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how Tim found the cave. Alfred and Robin trash Wayne's Porsche and drive it off a cliff to give Bruce an alibi.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
That part kind of took me out because they first start beating it up with sledgehammers, and I'm no like
it's
forensic.
like that hidden level. It's like that in between level of Street Fighter 2.
Street Fighter, yeah. I'm no forensic detective, but I can tell you that like any cop would say you hit this car with sledgehammers before you.
It's very clear that these indentations.
Well, what if they drove the Porsche off the cliff and it was just like in near mint condition after it landed? I mean, then no one's gonna buy it. Like, come on. He didn't hurt himself. That car's fine.
Yeah,
that
I
part's-
think smashing it with the hammers is very silly. But
Very silly. But again, I like the fact that, like, again, they're rallying together as a family, which is cool.
Sure.
It's interesting. Jean Paul is very he's very much a servant. He's not like really, he's like, yes, sir, whatever, Alfred, I'll do it. Like, he's just executing orders as he's being tasked with them.
Well,
It's
he's
interesting.
still here, like under the mindset that he's going to train. Like, I am here because,
Yeah.
like,
yeah,
you
like
know,
at this point, he does not have Bruce's blessing to become Batman.
No.
He's just
Yeah.
here to assist.
Bruce is like,
it's
you're
interesting though, because I just, in my mind, historically, or remembering it years later, you think, oh, he was always crazy, and like, yes, he was, but he was also dutiful here. He was like,
yeah.
he was really trying to help.
Well, he just come from the order of Saint Dumbass or whatever, and now that he was like,
Saint Dumbass.
you're a psychopath, and I can't trust you to be anywhere, so I'm going to train
the system,
you
right?
to work for me as a
Where
psychopath.
he was under control by the substance.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, that's something else.
Dr. Consolving visits Bruce and confirms he has a fractured spine, although she challenges the car wreck story, which I loved. It just shows how bad these guys are at this.
Well, first of all,
She's
the car
like, "That's
looked
not
like
what
somebody
happened."
hit it with a bunch of sledgehammers.
In a way that this bothered me, but whatever. Catwoman, she gets introduced here, has a run-in with Bane's goons. Bane tells her and her fencer, Leopold, who I forgot about that guy as well, that they can fence goods through his organization if they do some work for him. I completely forgot about this whole
Was
subject.
Leopold like a character that was recurring? Because I don't know nothing. about Leopold.
He shows up here for the first time, but he sticks around for a bit. And then when she-
maybe in like her own book.
in Knight's Quest, but then also in his own
In
her
Catwoman.
book. Then he eventually gets killed.
R.I.P. Leopold.
Oh, he's a fence.
All right.
It's a dangerous business, you know.
The bat signal goes up because he just gang war all over the city. And I think the Gordon's just trying to see what happens, or at least let people know, hey, he's still out there. And Jean Paul and Tim debate what to do. Bruce.
Oh, but wait, before that, we do get another scene where Bane stands on a rooftop and shouts that Gotham is his.
Yep.
That is true. He does.
And Gotham is mine. Yep.
Bane. Yeah, I love it. The bat signal goes up. Bruce gives Tim the okay for Jean Paul to suit up as Batman, but he tells him not to confront Bane, only to bring stability back to the city.
The jump here from Jean Paul to becoming Batman is just basically
wait.
well, Tim, you're not tall enough to do it. You should do it. All right, go get him.
First, Tim suggests Nightwing.
Right.
Yep.
And then Bruce says, no, that would be
He's
too
got his own
logical.
stuff.
Yeah, that would make
That would
sense.
only make the most sense.
You have to cut his hair.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, Nightwing's not crazy enough. Yeah.
So then they give it to Jean Paul, and then
Thank God.
yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
And he kind of has just this immediate like stick up his butt. He just kind of like, gets power, and then he just kind of goes a little bit nuts.
I do like this moment where Gordon is like, are you all right? And John Paul does say a line, something to the effect of, I'm not as good as I was, but I'm going to get there. Like he implies that Batman is recovering from whatever Bane did. Like
Right.
he addresses the fact that, hey, you're not going to see me being as great as Batman.
Yep.
Not Batman.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, then we take a detour through one of my favorite books of the era, although I think this could have been 1 to 2 issues, not 3, but Batman Shadow of the Bat. Number
Hold on, John.
16.
Sorry. No,
Yeah.
part 16 is Detective Comics.
Detective.
Is it?
Yeah, it should be
Yeah,
665.
Detective
665.
is Nightfall chapter 16.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Those other ones aren't numbered.
The Shadow of the Bat
It's
ones.
Shadow of the Bat that's not numbered. Sorry. I thought it was Showcase, but it's Shadow of the Bat.
No, the
that's not
Shadow of the Bat ones are strictly asides, and they are not technically part of Nightfall.
So where do they fall in then?
Right after 665.
It comes right after Detective 665. So
this-
Detective first, and then Nightfall.
No, thanks
Or
for
then Shadow of the Bat.
They actually in the DC Universe app, they actually have these before 665. That's interesting.
Well, you're implying that DC pays attention to this stuff, and
Yeah, I think it
all
goes to
makes
show
sense.
you how little it really matters.
Interesting. Okay. So we'll go jump down to Detective Comics 665, released June 93, written by Chuck Dixon, pencils by Graham Nolan, inks by Dick Giordano, cover by Kelly Jones. Lightning changes.
in case you didn't know that this Batman is maybe not all there mentally, the cover features Tim recoiling in horror as Jean-Paul Valley as Batman beats a thug with a stick with 2 nails hammered through it.
Yeah, it's a board with nails in it. And
he draws him like he did his like vampire Batman. At the time. Like
It looks like Batman Red Rain, yeah.
And by the way,
exactly.
Tim looks like he has a pile driver for a head in this picture too.
I also like I keep reading like lightning changes and I keep going like lightning crashes. I can't say the word lightning changes.
Yeah.
Lightning
So
Changes
weird.
is a weird title.
It is. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's not a thing.
Unless it was like editorial comment about themselves. We open with Robin and Jean Paul as Batman fighting a random gang. An amazing double page spread of just top notch Graham Nolan art with Batman punching a dude in the face.
That's a great page.
Oh,
That
unbelievable.
punch, man. That punch is wicked.
This whole fight scene is great. The 2 guys with sledgehammers. I mean, come on.
Graham Nolan's just, I mean, he is so brutal in this, Jean Paul is. And Robin notes that. He notes how tough Jean Paul is, maybe too tough. I honestly, as a kid, probably drew like 3 of these panels, like constantly just trying to like draw like Graham Nolan, like just amazing. And this is kind of his first.
You chose better than I
wow.
did. I used to draw panels from Spectacular Spider-Man of Richard Fireheart turning into Puma.
Oh, wow.
Not exactly the same.
Yeah. Wow.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
And then Bruce at home, back in his smoking jacket, calls Dr. Consolving, but she's with Tim's dad. So Bruce decides to head over there on his own, which is interesting. And as he comes over there, he spots an armed guard who he assumes is a Bane henchman and takes him down.
In a wheelchair.
Which is fun.
I'm already so confused at the timeline because Bruce is just like in a wheelchair, like, it's time to go outside. Like,
well, the drug
he
worked.
was just on life support and
Joe, the drug worked. What do you need? Come on.
Yeah. I mean, they must have had time to make Wayne Manor ADA compliant because otherwise how did Bruce get outside?
Right. Well, I'm sure there's an elevator in Wayne Manor or something. I don't know. I mean, come on.
At the front door?
Sure. Or maybe it's a back door. You know, maybe they got an elevator to take stuff up and they didn't get the piano upstairs by, you know, walking it up the spiral staircase, right? Come on.
I mean,
his leg was in a splint after being like mangled upside down. And now he's just like sitting in a wheelchair normally.
And beating someone up from a wheelchair, by the way.
I mean, perhaps it is not off base to infer that some time has passed.
Well,
and he's recovered slightly, and Jean Paul has had time to let this go to his head because otherwise, Jean Paul becomes Batman and then immediately goes crazy.
Jean Paul becomes Batman and immediately goes crazy. They leave to go fight gangs and keep things together. Jean Paul immediately puts on a scary face and he's like, I'll tell you what I want. And he's going to kill the guy with a sledgehammer. And Robin's like, no, dude. This is like the first time they went out. And I'm saying, no, time has not passed. This is the same night. It even says, and then the night gets a little darker. And that's where we get...
No, it can't be the same night because Bruce was in bed the same night, which is why
it's definitely not the same night.
Well, there's definitely nothing that says...
Shadow of the Bat coming before this makes sense because you don't see Bruce during the Shadow of the Bats. And he is, what's his face is less crazy. I think those were supposed to come before this.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. Mm-hmm. But it certainly doesn't say a week later or 15 minutes later, Bruce is feeling much better or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. This time,
I mean, it doesn't specifically say, but it doesn't specifically say one way or the other because the previous issue, right before the weepy page of Bruce in bed looking at the bat signal through his window, the last time we see Batman and Robin, Jean Paul and Robin, it's them saying to Commissioner Gordon, everything's going to be all right. You know, there's going to be hell to pay. You know, Bane will have hell itself to pay. So you could just, if you, in your head canon, you said, okay, it's been like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You would be fine. There's nothing there's nothing to indicate it one way or the other.
Yeah.
Other than
Bruce is healing.
To assume that it's immediate makes it way more unbelievable.
Well, sure. But even 2 weeks, doing a hell of a job healing here. I'm impressed.
So Bruce
he's
sees,
still in a wheelchair, but
Bruce sees Tim's dad and Dr. Consolving being kidnapped by armed thugs. Bruce fights them off but loses. Meanwhile, Batman and Tim crash a gangland meeting. Jean-Paul goes off, letting a goon nearly die. Batman gets the info he's looking for, which is on where he needs to go to look for Bane.
Oh, and also Bane has taken over every part of Gotham crime except for the unions. They mentioned he's got drugs, smuggling, gambling, extortion, car theft, bank burglary.
That's why I think Shadow of the Bat comes before this.
Yeah, I mean, at the very that might be true, John, but at the very least, some time has clearly passed.
One thing I've noticed on both of the covers on Batman 6 or Detective 665, the date says August 93, and then on Shadow of the Bat it says September 93.
That's really weird.
Yeah. Yep. That's
means
a good call, Joe. No, I think that's why this. So the trade that I read from, and perhaps you as well, Joe and Matt, I think this may have been one of. It's not the first trade, because the first trades had those awful Mike Deodato Jr. covers. But I think that in later editions they may have reshuffled the deck a little bit, because you're absolutely right. This is in order of publication, which does not necessarily mean that's where they fall in order of timeline.
Fair. But I also think maybe they did it in order of publication, and they just did it in order of here's a Nightfall story, here's where we had a break, because these just say Nightfall. They're tie-ins. It's just a tie-in.
Yeah.
So they they threw them in here.
Detective 665 ends not on a cliffhanger. It just ends with oh no, Jean-Paul is really starting to get bad. Yikes.
Great point.
And it's a good place to stop.
Sure.
And then take this quick break.
Tie-ins in.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. Okay. Batman Shadow of the Bat #1 released
number 16.
16. Yep. Sorry. A little typo there. Batman Shadow of the Bat number 16, July 1993, written by Alan Grant, who was awesome at Shadow of the Bat at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Pencils by Brett Blevins, which I have a love-hate relationship with that art style. But he does some good work here. Inks by Mike Manley, a cover by the amazing Brian Stelfreeze.
The covers of Shadow of the Bat are always
they're incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Beyond and I love that Brian Stelfreeze is still out there doing amazing work, but his covers during that time were just shocking.
I remember seeing Batman Shadow of the Bat #1 on a spinner rack at a Walmart or something. And I was like, what is this comic? What is this? And then I opened it up and it was Norm Brayfogle, which, hey, don't get me wrong.
No, he's amazing.
Great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But I was like, what is this? This isn't, the cover is not the same.
They were selling covers. No. They were selling covers at the time. That's
for sure.
The God of Fear Part 1. So we opened with some school bullies tormenting a kid named Harold. They make him volunteer with them for an odd reason. I don't know if that's bullying, but I guess it is, for a psychology experiment with virtual reality helmets. That just really seems like odd torture, but whatever.
Well, virtual reality stormtrooper helmets too. They're sort of like somewhere between a Cylon and a stormtrooper. They're really weird.
Right. It's really, really strange. But again, Brett Blevins, just the way he draws stuff is just, it's so unsettling that it kind of works. It just always feels super creepy. Robin catches Jean-Paul in costume without his mask on the balcony of Wayne Manor and chastises him. Jean-Paul basically says, fuck you, really marking his first real turn, in my opinion. He basically asserts that he's in charge now. It doesn't really matter what Bruce did before. So yeah, an interesting moment.
Well, and he's also saying I'm in charge because Bruce was following his stupid rules.
Right.
I'm doing it differently.
And then everybody's favorite Anarchy breaks out of jail.
Woo! Alan Grant loves Anarchy.
Loves Anarchy.
Alan Grant co-created Anarchy with.
Okay, that's why.
Yes,
he only ever showed up in either Shadow of the Bat or Detective. Is he dead?
Yeah, because Alan Grant just. I don't think he did. I think he died, but they brought him back at some point. One of the multiple reboots. So Anarchy's back somehow. But
yeah. So he breaks out of jail and then he's like, oh, I'm the scourge of the alleys. I don't even quite understand what his mission is.
I don't either. Other than he has a gold face and a weird costume.
Yeah.
The things that I remember about Anarchy is that Well, he's an anarchist. He
A fascist anarchist.
Oh well, he's against all
perfect sense.
he's against all politics, all political parties. He makes a crack about the Democrats winning, which meant that he got a cushy job in the metal
Got
shop
me in.
because because they didn't have a hard stance on crime. And the other thing that I remember about Anarchy is that he's like 15.
Yeah.
Anarchy is very young. And so that's why the costume looks so freakish, is because it's meant to like make him look bigger than he is.
So is he standing on something, or does he have something that stretches his neck
it's just
out?
like
So
a
is-
skull. It's like a I don't know, like a exoskeleton. Like, you know what I mean? It's like
Blevins draws his
framed in
neck like it's 3 feet long. So
it's because it is.
Yeah.
No, it is. It's like it's inhumanly proportioned. Yeah.
So he's like down in there, like looking like through the chest or something as a kid with like a big.
I mean,
fake
I'm
head?
not sure where his head would like.
I think he uses big billowy to like floaty and look.
Yeah, like
okay.
it's meant to hide his small young frame, but it also is like purposefully designed to look not normal.
Do not care about Anarchy.
3 children underneath that trench coat.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. Yeah,
It's like
there
him
you
and
go.
3 kids under there, and they're beating up full-grown men.
Yeah.
Now, where his head is in relation to the neck and the mask and the hat, I couldn't say. But like, he's 15, but he's not like 3 feet tall. He's 5 feet, 5.5 feet tall.
So I'm
And,
just
and then
picturing.
he cattle prods people. Apparently.
Yep.
He's violent. He's very violent. Yeah.
Yeah. So back at the school, Professor Rance starts the experiment, but Harold recognizes him as Jonathan Crane, which I thought was really cool. Like, you very rarely see somebody in Gotham be like, "Oh, you killed my dad like 10 years ago."
Right.
Like, it's kind of, that would be happening. He recognizes him as a scarecrow. And then Jonathan Crane then gasses everyone. We see Harold's vision, which is a memory of his dad being shot by Scarecrow. This art during all the fear gas scenes is fantastic. That's cool.
I love Brett Blevins, and I noticed that nothing from Matt about the proportions of Dr. Rance.
I mean, I can't handle Brett Blevins. You guys love him. That's fine. You can have him. Everybody in this
I
book
love
is
and hate him. I wrote I love and hate him.
everybody in this book is
It's
completely.
very exaggerated.
There's
and I
no
like that.
one with normal proportions in this book. So
Yeah, but that's okay.
Even the
if
kids
that's
are all
if that's the artistic rules that
gangly
they've
and
established,
weird.
then just go with it.
sure,
He's the guy to draw a wiry Scarecrow, though. His Scarecrow just looks
Yeah.
terrifying.
Yeah, it's really scary.
I do like. Come on, Jonathan Crane. First of all, most people will have at least read a newspaper and have seen your face. But if you're going to come up with a fake name, maybe don't just do Rance. Maybe don't run your name through a jumble.
Well, I mean, he also showed up with a top hat and scary glasses on, so who could possibly recognize him? Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a world where Clark Kent can disguise himself.
Yeah.
So
Right.
who am I to judge?
Anarchy goes after some low-level thugs because that's what he does, and Batman shows up. Anarchy watches the Batman fight and decides, Batman creates these villains, so he has to go. Which, it's fair. It's fair take.
I could see anarchists being against the fascists.
It's certainly not the first time I have heard that sentiment from somebody in a comic book.
Yeah.
That the villains would not exist without the heroes.
Yeah. Often it's like a cop or a psychologist who says that it's not
Or a
usually
politician. Yeah.
a politician. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Back at the school, the Scarecrow puts the students under mind control and makes one student shoot another in the head.
Yeah.
That was
It's brutal.
wild as fuck.
Yeah.
It's gnarly.
This page of Jean-Paul Bats hanging from this grate above
Oh, it's so good.
dudes is awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, it
That's
is.
such a good panel.
It's so good. It's so good. And then the very next page of Scarecrow, just horrific. Where
Yeah, man. I love it. I think this art is fantastic.
Oh, that's fantastic. And then when he's sitting there in the classroom, just, yeah. So he makes the student shoot the other student. It's gnarly, almost like Sandman, Neil Gaiman kind of stuff.
Oh, like 24 hours, like the
24 hour
Sort of,
diner.
yeah.
He makes the rest of them dress up like scarecrows, and they take off in his van, which is a really, really great ending, I thought.
Yeah, it's creepy as hell. I mean, and for just a side story, it's better than the Two-Face one. It really is. It's
Yeah.
No,
better
I think
than
that
the
this
Two-Face
three-parter
one.
is great. It's basically just like And now here are some things that are happening with John Paul as Batman that aren't directly related to Bruce Wayne and his shenanigans.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. So then we then go to Batman Shadow of the Bat 17, released August 93, written by Alan Grant, penciled by Brett Blevins. Another banger Selfreeze cover.
Yeah.
The God of Fear Part 2. We start with the Scarecrows. The students dress up as Scarecrows, following the orders from the Scarecrow. And then Crane tells Harold that his father was Crane's first victim, which is, I think, really, really interesting. Back at the school, the cops find the body of the student and a VHS tape left for Batman. On the tape, Scarecrow says he's
Harold is his last name.
His last name is Harold.
That explains why it's spelled so weird.
It's like Ricky Harold or something like that. Yeah.
Herold.
Yeah. On the tape, Scarecrow says he's hell-bent on making everyone worship him as the God of Fear, which is kind of fun. They never really see that coming from him. Then the tape self-destructs. I like this like plot for the Scarecrow. I think it's cool to like kind of take him up.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and you know what? It's good to see that Scarecrow is feeling much better after the Joker beat his ass.
And I like
he looked like a buffoon in that whole run there.
Yeah, right.
He really
It's
did.
like, we need to remind people that
neutered.
Scarecrow is actually horrifying.
And just so you remember that Bullock has an eating problem, after he watches the video, he goes, cheese! Fruitcake ain't half of where that creep's concerned. Like, I'm sorry, what was that, Bullock? Was that just an excuse to say two food items in a sentence? Like, what are we doing?
He's
Cheese?
also holding a candy bar when they get the tape.
Good Lord.
It's great. It's fantastic. Anarchy goes after more street thugs. Yawn. Crane makes Harold go with him to steal some books and recounts the story of how he killed his dad, which is just...
Anarchy has a crossbow or something that shoots sharp A's.
Yeah, it doesn't even shoot arrows. It shoots sharp A's.
Sharp A's. Yeah.
You know, I think in the first recording of the part 1, I was saying, oh, no, you're wrong. Anarchy rules. I love him. And I loved him. And then I reread this. And now
I think Anarchy has a striking design that I think is kind of nifty.
Yes.
But as a character, I don't have any interest in him whatsoever.
Anarchy sucks. He just sucks.
Yeah.
Like, I like how different I like how different his design
very
is,
well designed,
especially considering the time the era where he was introduced.
But now that I know he's a 15-year-old, I just laugh at every panel I see. Like, oh, this is a 15-year-old swinging around, like no real training and stuff, beating people up.
He's a 15-year-old
shooting people with sharp A's,
weirdo with
cattle prodding folks. Yeah, 15.
And
okay.
I'm almost certain that the costume amplifies his strength. Blah blah blah. Typical comic book.
He
nonsense.
built the costume too. He's like a genius.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, he's a genius.
Yeah.
All right.
He has to ride in the Anarchy Bill with a adult because he's only 15.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Right. He can't drive himself around.
Nope.
Well, now hold on, Hugo. He does not believe in observing man's laws.
Yeah, your fascist laws don't apply
he
to
is
anarchy.
an anarchist.
So Crane makes so then the Scarecrow's students, they descend across town, gassing public places and causing chaos. That's pretty fun. And then Anarchy and Batman sort of independently take down the Scarecrows and save a bunch of folks.
Hooray.
Yeah. we get a really cool sort of hologram over the city of Scarecrow, which it took me a minute to realize that that's actually what was happening.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. I thought I missed something and like, oh man, did I miss a
He's
panel?
he's like projecting himself over the skies of Gotham.
I thought I missed something where
so.
he like gassed that neighborhood and they were having a mass hallucination or something. I wasn't sure.
Now,
I mean, his people
here's-
are out there gassing people. So that might exactly be what's happening.
I'm glad that this is a tie-in, because if it was part of the actual run, I would be like, Bane's plan is so well thought out. If this guy started doing this, Bane would be like, freeze everything, find that guy
Yeah.
and kill him.
Yeah.
And then we can get back to the plan.
Yeah,
I'd be
There's
like,
no way he would let this happen.
All right, hold on. Let me deal with this real quick. And he'd grab the scarecrow by his neck and he'd just pull.
Pops
and
it.
then
He grabs the scarecrow's 14-inch neck.
And then this is one
pops it
issue
like one of
instead
those
of
New Year's
3.
Eve
You know,
things.
like then we only have that one
Yeah.
issue. So
I did like, we don't often see the origin of the Scarecrow. I really liked the origin of the Scarecrow, where it's just
Totally
like,
agree.
Yeah.
oh, Jonathan Crane has always been nuts.
Yeah.
It's not just that when he like lost his job. No, he's like shooting birds in front of college students
Yeah.
because he's trying to teach them about the nature of fear. And the college is like, fired. Yeah.
go figure.
And but I liked this origin sequence for sure.
I agree. It was a refreshing take. It wasn't like dense, like I was on the right side of justice, then acid hit me. Like, okay.
Well, yeah,
right.
I mean, and also in contrast to that Two-Face thing, like how many times have we seen Two-Face's origin? They don't ever talk about Scarecrow's origin.
That's true.
Never.
Hardly ever.
Yeah, never.
But boy, I'll tell you what, they sure did squeeze anarchy in here. We don't need that character for anything that happens here. We really don't. Batman, we could have just been Batman and Scarecrow. I really don't need anarchy for any of this.
Yeah.
There might have been Robin there.
Yeah. He could have been filled in with by Tim.
Sure.
For sure.
Well, it wouldn't have been an Alan Grant story.
Orpheus could have shown up.
if it didn't have
you know, like,
Yeah. Ellen Grant's like, guys, I'm going to show you. He's cool.
right.
Yeah, right. It's like, guys, I'll write this 3-part Batman story, but you better believe I'm.
You're not getting
Ellen
paid by
Grant's
the
like,
anarchy appearance,
when-
Alan. Sorry,
when
man.
Anarchy's not on screen. The other characters should be asking, where's anarchy?
He should have access to a time machine at all times.
Yeah. Batman Shadow of the Bat, number 18, released August 24, 1993, written by Alan Grant, Brett Blevins, inks by Stephen George, cover by Brian Stelfreeze, another amazing cover. God of Fear Part 3. The Scarecrow student shows up at the police station, very Seven style, to turn himself in.
Oh, yeah.
Only to gas the cops, and then the cops just light him up. Really great sequence. Definitely. I was like, well, this was way before 7 too, so that was really cool.
Yeah, 1993.
Yeah. Scarecrow, it's confirmed, and they do say a hologram, has a hologram projected over the city telling Gotham to worship him as the god of fear, which is fun. Anarchy tracks Scarecrow to a roof with Harold and decides he's not going to do anything till Batman shows up because he wants to kill Batman, which is annoying and childish. And then you go, well, he is a kid.
Hey, I guess he's 15. He's an idiot. You know, why not?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's just kind of, sorry, Hugo. It's just, but
it's like, it shows that sort of like developmental thinking where it's like, he's developed enough and smart enough to have formed a plan, but also that plan is stupid.
Yes, it is. Yeah. I will also, this is super nerdy 90s, 80s Batman kid. But like, this is probably, I think, one of the last times Blevins draws the GCPD building like they used to in the 80s, which is like, there's a shot of the exterior and it always looked the same in like every Batman,
right,
like in the 80s and 90s. And he does it here, and you really don't see it after this era, which is just, it's really, really cool.
Interesting.
It looks like a castle.
Yeah, like a castle almost. And it's all blue. Crane calls Gordon and says he has a tanker full of fear gas, essentially positioned to spread across the city at midnight, unless Gordon declares him a god, which is just great.
Look what's he gonna do. He's like, folks, hi, it's your police commissioner. Just so everybody knows, I want this to end. So I guess I pray to the Scarecrow now. He's my guy.
It's a little like standing up in the office.
Now I lay me
bankruptcy.
down to sleep. I pray the Scarecrow, my
bankruptcy.
soul to keep. If I die before I wake, I pray the Scarecrow, my soul to take. Like, are we done here?
Creator religion is gone.
Batman finally tracks him and takes him down. Scarecrow nets them both and tells Batman he has to die. Not Scarecrow. Anarchy nets them both and tells Batman he has to die to stop crime. Scarecrow tells Harold to help him out of the net. He's under his mind.
Whose name is Phil. Phil Harold.
Phil Harold. Yes.
Yeah.
Two first
He says, Phil, help, Phil. Because I had to go back and be like, I thought the kid's name was Harold. and he tells him to throw himself off the roof. And I remember reading this as a kid and being like, whoa, this is fucked up. So he like throws himself off. He says like, I feel nothing.
Yeah.
I don't even feel that sad. Whew.
Yeah.
So a point of order real quick. There are so many things going on in this scene. One, Harold hits Anarchy in the face with what looks like the weakest punch of all time. But it is enough to knock Anarchy down.
Okay, well, hold on. Anarchy's
and then you see
15-year-old
Anarchy's face where the mask was. At the top of the 3-foot tall neck.
He's standing up in there.
So what the hell is going on in there?
He's on stilts, maybe. But I
think maybe he is on stilts.
He got hit by a kid about his age, so I don't know. Maybe that tracks. You know, it makes sense. He gets hit by a kid, it hurts.
And also, if he's on stilts, maybe it was enough to knock him off balance.
Maybe. Who knows? But yeah,
stilts are hard.
The Scarecrow makes this other kid try to kill himself, and God, it's just brutal.
Yeah.
But this whole thing, this whole story, you're absolutely right, John. If you give me this first, I know that Jean Paul went out on this other mission, did a thing, time has passed. And so when we come back and Bruce is no longer in traction, you know, but like actually like in a wheelchair, it would make sense. It's been maybe a few days, a week, I don't know, something. But otherwise, it looks like that all happened in the same damn night.
Yeah.
And then
I will say this. I think that Blevins' art falls apart a little bit here in this final
big
issue.
Time.
Especially towards the end. And I don't know if it's because it was rushed. But if you notice, the covers said late or early September, late September. So this book was bi-weekly, which means Blevins was cranking them out.
Yeah.
And so I think there was some shortcuts taken on this one.
The final few panels, there's some unfinished looking bat poses here. So, oof.
No, there are moments, you know, like Joe, you're an artist, like I've drawn as well. Like there's moments where you're like, he sunk all of his time into that one panel, and then these other 4 he just ran out of
he forgot out of time or ran out of time, like this panel where Paul's falling off the roof, and then later on where Batman has got Paul by the ankle with a rope.
Phil,
and
not Paul. Phil,
sorry, Harold.
Harold. Let's just call him Harry.
Where we see like the building, there's just like nothing to it. It's just like okay. In general, though, I really enjoy Blevins' work in this 3-parter. I think, I don't often think, oh man, the Scarecrow is actually looking very scary.
He's good for that. I'll give you
very scary in this.
He's good for the Scarecrow. You know, like there's those artists, like we just talked about Jock in that book that he did with the serial killer, where everything looked pretty normal. We're like, this is pretty toned down for Jock. And then when the serial killer shows up, it's full Jock, and you go, oh God, there it is.
Yeah, right.
They
went full.
Brett Blevins is just, we're getting full Blevins.
Showed everybody his full Jock.
We're getting the full Blevins, whether you like it or not. It's like he has one speed, and it is Blevins.
I mean, I think maybe the art just suffered from the schedule.
Yeah.
But Brett Blevins, co-creator of Marvel's Sleepwalker, by the way,
which also looks lanky and tall and ridiculous.
Whoa,
weird and distended.
Very similar. Okay.
So where do we go from here? Do we go back to
the next chapter? Is Batman 499?
Oh, Hugo.
Yeah, we'll come on art.
Before, I think that the Scarecrow looks actually scary, but now he just looks like a Halloween Scarecrow that had stuffing taken out of it.
Right. Because like now he's beaten and he looks pathetic, right? Like that's a good.
Was also at this time really heavy in Legends of the Dark Knight and that book, and there were a lot of like stories like this, just like, you know, a random Scarecrow story, a random Two-Face Joker story, and he might have just been really busy, to your point. So the interesting thing is, so Harold jumps off the building. Batman's going to let him die, essentially, and Anarchy saves him. And both Anarchy and Crane are blown away that Batman was going to let Harold die. And then Batman threatens to cave in Anarchy's head, which is...
He was like frightening in that last page.
Yeah, right.
And you know what? He could have saved us from Anarchy right there. When they could have let him do it. They could have differentiated. You know why we know this isn't Batman? Because he killed that stupid Anarchy character.
Great story, but I think could have been 1 to 2 issues. Definitely not 3.
Yes.
But,
Yeah, I
Don't need
think
reach.
like if you look, especially if you look back as you scroll backwards through the previous 2 issues, the art gets better the farther back you go. So I
Yeah,
think as
good
we
point.
barreled
Definitely.
along, Blevins was like, "Okay, guys, I swear I'm meeting my deadlines. We're doing it."
Yeah, I think you're totally right.
Because it loses a little something.
Or they're like, Brett,
Yeah.
good news. It's not a 1-issue story. It's a 3-issue story. And he's like, what?
And he was like, "Oh no, yeah."
Hold on. What?
Okay, so Batman 499, written by Doug Mensch, pencils by Jim Aparo, inks by Scott Hanna, cover by Kelly Jones. The Venom connection, dynamite cover, and I remember like being like, "Oh, I heard his costume was going to change," and like you see the gauntlets for the first time.
I remember seeing this cover and wondering what the hell was going on because I
Yeah.
didn't really know about the whole costume thing. I knew that Batman was going to get his back broken, but I didn't know about the costume change.
Well, it just makes sense though, because Jean Paul was wearing those giant weird like ape hand things, and he's like, "That's kind of
Yeah,
my
right.
thing," and I want to put my stamp on Batman. So maybe I could come up with giant weird claw hands for
Yeah,
Batman.
my turtle fingered hockey pads.
I do love that they start here though, and he just goes like, somebody else might have been like, okay, and he just has a new costume, but he was like, I'm going to change one thing, and then his brain was like, as an addict, was like, that's not enough. I need
Right.
to change it all. Like it's kind of fun.
Yeah, no, that's compelling, I think.
The only thing is, by
Yeah,
the time he's
absolutely.
done, he looks absolutely ridiculous.
I think it's a good way to show his mania, right? Where he's
Right,
like
exactly.
obsessed
Sure.
with the idea of being better
Yeah.
Yeah.
than Bruce was.
Because it does come from somewhere, which we'll find out here in a very like Iron Man correct your mistakes kind of way.
Yeah.
So Batman and Robin, really just Batman, give Mafia Don Tough Tony a beating and tell him to help them find Bane so he can get his kids back. Tough Tony.
How long do we think
Tough
about
Tony,
that?
no?
Wait, call him Tony, Tough Tony, because he's tough. Tough Tony.
Yeah. No relation to the Simpsons Fat Tony.
Yeah.
Batman threatens to make him eat his own eyes.
Wow.
That's
That's something.
yeah. We're there now.
Well, but
We're
this is why-
we're
this is why
And the
Dick-
whole time, poor Robin's just like, I don't know.
I wish Rob would have been like, I'm going to stay in the car. I'm going to take old Batman's advice, and I'm just going to stay in the car.
That's the Simpsons moment, like the stop it, he's already dead.
But he just has this like, oh, this may not have been the best, but he doesn't tell anybody, which is fun. So then meanwhile, a wheelchair-bound Bruce investigates the abduction of Jack Drake. Doesn't tell Tim, by the way. And Dr. Chandra consulting. It doesn't tell Tim that his father's been kidnapped. Tracing clues back to the Santa Prisa, which is where Bane is from. Oracle helps Bruce track the kidnappers, and they have a nice moment connecting over both their uses of a wheelchair, which I thought was really kind of cool.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. Bruce and Alfred depart for the island where this is so weird. Selena secretly tries to board their plane.
Sure.
They've never met at this point, which I struggled with that because I was like, this is a long time post-crisis for a reset for them to have never met.
I didn't know, I guess. And
Well, okay, so it's not the first time Bruce has met Catwoman.
Right.
Or it's not the first time that Batman has met Catwoman. It's the first time that Bruce Wayne
has met Selena Kyle.
has met.
But I still struggled
I
with
mean,
even that. I was like,
And she doesn't know who he is
no.
at this point.
I don't know. It was weird. It still felt weird. I'm with you, John. It felt weird.
Like when she comes out and he sees Selena Kyle, like he knows who she is. Like because he's known her forever.
Yeah.
Catwoman first appeared in like Batman #1.
Right.
So she's been around for his entire career.
Yeah.
So
That's why it just felt weird. It felt like, I don't know. It was very strange. And so she's secretly boarded their plane. Bird tells Bane that Batman is back, to which Bane says, no, it's not him. He calls him a pretender, which I think is cool.
We also see the first instance of Jean-Paul redesigning the costume.
Oh yeah, I most
And
of that
he
setup.
is taken over by the system.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's the system that's driving him
Well,
to do this.
it's the fact that he's fighting the system to do something else. And the system's like, I think they're insinuating the more that he tries to be Batman, the more the system is trying to take him over. Right?
But the system is helping him design Batman gear.
Well, that's just it. Like, he didn't even realize he drew the weird claws. And he's like, should I build these? Yeah, I don't want to be able to pick anything up. I want something that doesn't work at all. And I you know what?
I mean, the
shouldn't even be able to
system
grab
even draws a
steering
little
wheel.
bat on it, so he knows what they're for.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I think the system is just like you are designed. I mean, it's Bucky, right? You're
Right.
designed to be.
You're
a killing
designed to
machine.
excel.
And
Yeah.
he's being given the chance to be the ultimate badass. So the system's like, all right, well,
It's like the super
And-
soldier serum, but only for your brain,
yeah,
right? It's like, yes, he's a physical specimen, but the system is like, it pumps him full of strategy and tactics.
Well, but
and-
it's also
and
like,
knowledge.
you're a killer. You should be killing these people.
Yes,
right.
no,
you
of
need
course.
a kill
But
machine.
like,
Yeah.
The spandex isn't going to cut it.
Right.
he's not trying to fight the system here, but the system is just like, hold up,
Yeah.
you need to be better at this. And
I also love too that it gives
yeah,
us.
and they put him in a trance. It puts him in
Yeah.
a trance.
I love it. It gives us. I completely forgot about this era. The Herald's just hanging out in the Batcave.
Yeah.
like, building.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
brings the kid back and he's like, hey, Harold, you're pretty smart.
No. Harold the mechanic.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Mechanic Harold. Yeah, he's
Harold,
like,
Harold with an
build this for me.
H-A. Harold
Yeah.
the mute mechanic, the disfigured mute.
Yeah, I forgot about him from this era. Like it's wild how it's like this when we did Death of Superman. There's just all this stuff from this time I forgot about. But yeah,
But he's missing also. He's not here.
he's not here, but he shows up in a later issue.
Yeah, it's like
The dog
we'll
is
get
Ace
there.
or-
We'll get there.
Not Ace,
But like
but the
he
dog
goes to
was-
Harold's workshop. Harold is missing.
Yeah. So Tim finally finds a note from Alfred that essentially says, "Hey, your dad's been taken. We're gonna go find him." And just jets, which is
I refuse to believe that these claw fingers work for anything.
no, look at them. You can't do anything with them but cut people. You basically have Freddy hands now, right?
I mean, but I don't know if they're articulated and we just can't see it, or if they're made out of some sort of bendy metal, because he's making fists and stuff and picking things
No,
up,
they
but they
definitely
just
show-
don't look like they would.
They definitely show like what looks like there's little, knuckles and whatever, but still they're so pointy. Like, come on, what are you doing?
But I mean, like, if you look at this scene where he's built them for the first time and he's like testing them out and he reaches into a hole,
Yeah.
teensy tiny hole to pull out a slip of paper, there's nothing on those that indicates they should bend at all.
No, they just look like knife
So,
fingers. Yeah,
I don't know.
it's stupid.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this last time. I think that this era is a response to Image.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Image wasn't
Everything that
wrong
happened
about
to
any
DC
of
in the
this.
90s is a response to Image. Killing Superman, sure. Yeah.
That's why you
Yeah,
can't
like,
ask Nightwing to
it-
do this job, because we need a Batman that's going to kill people, like they do at Image.
Right. And have pouches.
Right. Or at
Right.
least will be ultra
Gadgets
violent.
that
Whether he
Make no sense.
goes around slaughtering people or not,
Fine,
he's
yeah.
at least ultra violent. Yeah.
Detective Comics 666.
Oh, here we go.
Badass cover as well. Written by Chuck Dixon, pencils by Graham Nolan, inks by Scott Hanna, amazing cover by Kelly Jones.
Oh, see, now these gloves have knuckles.
That's because a better artist is drawing them.
I know. I'm just saying.
The Devil You Know. More amazing Graham Nolan art. I love the opening narration of Jean-Paul Valley's sort of night out, where he essentially just says the detective work bores him. I just think that was...
Well,
that-
I think the line on the first page where it's the city's still new to him. He'll learn all its secrets soon enough. Different jungle, same rules. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, that's tough.
It's so good. It's just I love it. This whole opening is fantastic. Batman.
I will say this though, and it's not only Graham Nolan's fault. They all kind of did it. Having them draw Batman's grapple line like it looks like a regular fiber rope drives me insane. Don't draw it like a normal rope. It doesn't look cool. It doesn't look like it would be strong enough.
Yeah, it
It's
should be
just
like gray.
He's also
Yeah.
shooting them out of his palms from his weird claw hockey hands.
where
so.
it looks like it's coming from under his palm, like where Spider-Man shoots his web.
Sort
but his
of.
I buy
fingers
that.
are in the way.
I buy that.
There's a lot going on in this picture, but it is still kind of cool.
No, it's great.
Anatomy doesn't
I don't like the rig. I don't like the weird looking rope.
leg.
Batman and Gordon meet up, but Gordon seems uneasy. While he doesn't, come out and say that this isn't the same Batman, you can tell he definitely feels like something is off when he
Yeah,
turns
because
around and
Batman
Batman's
doesn't
still
leave.
there.
Yeah,
He doesn't
disappear.
ghost him.
And he's like, "Why are you still there?" He's like, "I didn't think we were done talking."
Yeah. And then when he does leave, he's like, I'll
That's
be
a really
leaving
great-
now.
That's a really great.
And he goes,
moment.
how do you plan on finding Bane? He's like, I'll keep that. And then he's like, says, I'm going to go. See ya.
Bye now.
Have a good
Yeah.
good night.
Like, wait a
Okay.
minute. That's not how he does that. What the hell?
Yeah, no, that's pretty great.
Give my best to Sarah.
So at this point, the cops have zombie.
Yeah,
Do they have all of them? They do.
yeah,
Yeah.
Zombie,
'cause-
Trog, and Bird
Yeah, Batman took them all out.
yeah.
in the previous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, in the cops, they interrogate Bane's men. This is so good. Someone breaks them out, leaving a note signed B, and they're like, "Oh, we've been saved by Bane," which is just great.
No, it's Batman.
Yeah. So they escape, and then they lead him, back to Batman, back to Bane. There's so
You know what? A very clever move
super
by,
clever.
Yeah.
by
Love
John
it.
Paul.
I remember reading that as a kid and being like, "Oh, that's really smart." I like that.
When you stop and you think Jean Paul would not care if these maniacs killed a bunch of people on their way back to Bane.
No.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't
He
care.
only cares about finding Bane.
No, this is the system working in his brain. And what would the system
But
do?
like Batman,
Yeah,
like Bruce Wayne Batman would be like, I can't let these criminals escape.
No,
because
but-
what if?
But the system's like, quickest way to get to Bane, let his dudes out. They'll lead me there. Go.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure,
and if a
100%.
cop gets killed, a cop gets killed. I got to get to Bane. That's the job.
I love Tim Drake eating soup alone in the dining room from Batman the movie. Very long table. You know what?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually been in this room.
Yeah, it's so weird. The whole thing with his dad is just super strange. I don't know.
Yeah.
And obviously goes on way too long in
Yeah.
Knight's Quest. But
And
that's
he's
for a
worried
different
about it enough, but not enough to be like, well, I guess maybe he doesn't like his dad that much. It's like he's upset, but he's not like, no, I got to get my dad,
day. He's upset, but not. I mean, they do have a bit of a challenging, because when his mom died, he didn't feel like his dad grieved enough. So they do have a bit of that.
I
in their
suppose.
past.
I suppose.
But also, he knows that Bruce and Alfred went to go find him.
He does know that, but I don't know.
It's still odd.
It's something odd about it.
Yeah.
I
I
want a scene with him on the phone with Alfred, like WTF, like
Right.
like what you
Well,
gotta
and
fill
also-
me in.
Like, I think, not showing him being more emotional is one thing for sure. But like, also, he's Tim Drake. He's been Robin for 5 minutes. What's he really going to do about it?
That's
You
true
know,
too. And the
I think that
timeline's
like
not
there's
very
nothing
long.
that Tim can do, but the fact that does not show him being more reactive
I don't know.
to the
This,
fact that his dad is missing is kind of strange.
this is the same kid that like gave Azrael a Batman suit without Batman saying he could earlier. Said like,
Well,
let's go out
yeah.
and you act like
He
Batman.
Bruce said he could.
But
No, I'm saying before that, the first time,
Of
the
fish.
last time we were here, when he first put on the Bat costume, Bruce did not say he could.
No, remember he
Oh, he
did.
didn't.
I thought that, but I was wrong.
No, not this, not what we're talking about here.
Oh, you're talking about before Nightfall.
Yes.
Yes, before Nightfall.
Yes.
yeah.
He puts on the Bat costume one time.
Right. Tim was like, screw that. Put on the Bat costume. Just come act like you're Batman. It'll be fine.
Yeah, you're totally right. I forgot that happened.
And now he's
But I
like,
mean, like-
but I'm going to do what's right because I learned my lesson. And even though my dad's kidnapped and I'm nonplussed about it, I'm not I'm not
I
totally
agree that I
freaking
think
out.
maybe he should be freaking out a little bit more, but I don't think that this version of Tim Drake would be able to like he wouldn't know how to get to Santa Prisca. Like, how is he
No,
sure?
yeah.
Sure.
No, you're absolutely right about that.
This
absolutely.
isn't 10-year-old Damien we're dealing with here, who could absolutely get to see.
Well, and it's like this kid's not in the Teen Titans.
Right.
Does he even have Oracle's phone number? You know, we don't know these things.
All right,
Yeah.
let's get to Sexy Bane in his robe, because this is
the goons lead Jean Paul to the
Yeah.
White Towers, which is really funny.
so hot.
Where Bane is lounging in a robe with a brandy snifter.
Love it.
Just fantastic.
Sex
He
machine.
mocks his men for leading Batman to him, calls them idiots, which is genius. Jean Paul crashes through the window and tears into the goons.
Also, I like the implication that Bane was just going to let them rot in jail.
Yeah, he was.
I didn't care.
That was genius, boss. He's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I
But-
didn't aid in your escape. It wasn't me.
Yeah, I did not.
I
aid
also
in your
like-
escape.
You were dumb
Good
enough
job.
to get caught.
I also like that
Yeah.
Bane, he'll unwind, he'll relax, he'll take everything off, put on a robe, but he's keeping the fingerless gloves on, baby.
Not only did he do that, Batman comes through the glass.
Still got that tube stuck to the back of his head. I think
Batman comes to the glass, fights the three, and while he fights the three, he gets his full Bane regalia on.
Yeah.
So he transitions from the robe to the full costume.
Right. He like leaves the room. Oh, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
he did a quick change.
He comes back pissed.
He did a short stint off Broadway, so he's used to quick costume changes.
Sure.
In the wings. Yeah. It's
gotta go.
So he calls Jean Paul a pretender, which is great, mocks his abilities. The fight's intense. Bane is outmatching Jean Paul, and then it kind of ends with Jean Paul hanging by a rope that's around his foot, and Bane takes one of his batarangs and starts to cut it. And that's where the issue ends.
Good fight scene. Really good fight scene. Although,
and like Jean Paul is like brutal here. He's like stabbing him
It's a
with
tough
his little
fight,
bat
yeah.
knives.
and he's also like going full Wolverine, where he like lands. He's like Bane, and he's got like the sharp fingers. He's like,
Oh no! The
gonna
shot,
cut you to
that shot
ribbons.
when he yells
cool.
Bane when he's over Trog is amazing.
it's great.
I love that
Yeah.
panel.
But this Batman is,
you can almost hear those gloves going snicked.
this Batman is here to cut your face off. Definitely.
Yes, it's fantastic. Then we're on our last issue, Batman 500.
It's a beefy boy.
And
It is a beefy boy.
man,
I remember when it finally came out, and I bought the gatefold foil cover. It's
The Joe Quesada cover.
The Joe Quesada cover is
Love
the
it.
best.
Oh,
And as a
so
DC kid, as this is going to sound so stupid and classist, but like Joe Quesada, his style was like Image to Marvel and like the DC kid's brain. And so to have this style on a DC book, when that cover came out, it felt like our books were getting like modernized.
that's
Like,
exactly why they
yeah.
did it. Yeah, that's exactly what they were going for.
This is a very brief snow globe moment captured in time at DC where it's like for 5 minutes, Joe Quesada went from Valiant to DC and did The Ray
yeah.
and did Shadow of Sword of Azrael.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
Sword of Azrael.
he did some covers. And then from that, he was like, he created Ash and started doing his own stuff. Like Joe Quesada didn't have any time. I don't think he ever went to Image.
No, but I'm sorry, I didn't mean him specifically, but
But I mean, it's that
style.
No,
Yeah,
you're
it
right,
was like
modern.
when Jim
but I
Lee
mean,
came over. It was like,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah,
God, Jim
but
Lee
it's
drawing
like-
Batman.
It's just that brief captured moment where it's like, for one shining moment, we had Joe Quesada at DC, and he did a weird ass story that kind of had Batman in it, and then The Ray of all things.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So that cover, both his Jean Paul Valley in the new costume, as well as his Bruce, because there's a Bruce in there too, where he just looks normal, and then Bane's holding Tim by the foot off the side of the building. Oh my God, it's amazing.
It's
It's a
incredible.
good cover.
Yeah.
But I mean,
so
the Kelly Jones cover is no slouch.
the Kelly Jones cover is also beautiful.
But
Both covers are phenomenal.
It is like a mirror, like a bizarro version of an earlier chapter where Bane is the one
Yep.
lording over the prone body of Batman.
Only on this
Yep.
cover, the Black Panther Wolverine is beating up Bane. So he's got like the gold shoulders and the Black Panther face and Wolverine claws and like
Hey
this,
man,
this costume.
costume
got
melted
pouches.
my fucking brain
Oh,
when
God.
I was.
hated
Even though,
Spider-Man.
even though
2099
everything
calves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
even though everything shoots out of his gloves, he's got pouches around
Oh, yeah.
his waist and his thigh.
One thigh.
One thigh.
Just one.
only.
Yeah.
So part one, so it's split into two parts. The first part, which is all, it feels very purposeful, but again, it's probably because I am a opposite of a Jim Aparo apologist. I feel like the first half is very much supposed to be the old guard. The second half is supposed to be modernized, but
I think that's a fair read.
Absolutely.
part one, the fall first. So we get Jim and then Terry and Austin and Mike Manley in the second half. The issue begins where the last one ended, with Batman falling from Bane's grasp, and he uses his new gauntlets grappling hook and it fails, which I think that's kind of, where he's starting to say, I got to beef up my costume here. Robin gets a call from his girlfriend, Ariana, who, if you read the Chuck Dixon Robin book at the time, she was all over that. And I completely forgot about that character.
I totally
Ariana.
forgot about her. Oh my God.
He's with her for a long time.
Long time, like years. That was really nice to see. Bane's goons get arrested again. The guys just can't stay out of jail.
They're bad at what they do. Come on.
Yeah, they're very bad at what they
his
used to be
main
good.
power is he has a bird. Okay. Think about that.
They were good at one point.
They were.
Arbor Gate.
Batman. So then back at the cave, Batman Jean-Paul works out to make himself feel better after his defeat, and he starts working on his new costume. Nightwing finally checks in, which is great, letting us know that Oracle told him what happened to Batman with Bruce, which I think is kind of cool.
You know what? I think that this is a fun, perhaps fun isn't the right word, but I think it's a nice early nod to what will become an ongoing theme in the Bat books for the next decade, which is that Bruce Wayne is very bad at being Bat Dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's bad to his family. He's distant. He's almost like abandoned them at times.
He's
like,
a
he doesn't tell them what's
dysfunctional
going
Bat
on
family.
ever.
Yeah. Broken Bat
so, like,
family. No doubt.
And so of Nightwing, who is essentially the closest thing Dick has to a son, had to hear it from Babs
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because Bruce was too proud to call him.
Which I would think, like, Nightwing's maybe reading the paper and it's like, witnesses saw Batman tell Robin to shut the hell up, and then he slapped him and almost killed
And
the
then
guy.
he clawed a guy's face off.
And Dick would be like, what? I mean, the guy's a jerk, but really he slapped him?
Tough Tony checks it with Gotham PD. It says, Batman's going to make me eat my own eyes.
Yeah, Batman was going to carve my face off.
Tough Tony.
Tough Tony.
Yeah, no, I like this, especially too, because when we recorded the first part, I did say, like, hey, where's Nightwing and all this? And Joe, you correctly pointed out that at the time they were estranged. So this like pays that off. So it's really nice.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. Bruce and Alfred started off on their globe-trotting quest to find Chandra and Tim's dad.
But we do see that Jean-Paul is now making the rest of the new Batsuit, but we see that deeper in the cave just keeps on going past Harold's workshop, that Ace the Bat Hound, was that the dog's name back then?
I saw
The dog's name.
It's not Ace. It's his dog. Harold.
It's Harold's dog. I know, but right. But I didn't know if they named him Ace as like a nod, but okay. I don't know the dog's name, but Harold's dog sees Jean-Paul and he knows that something's up. And then Jean-Paul notices Harold's spy camera and then he smashes it. And we see that Harold has retreated farther back, deeper into the cave.
Yeah.
So that's where Harold
And
was
he's
at. Okay.
hiding way back there.
He's scared.
That's a really beautiful.
And then there's an ambiguous panel that I like to think is Harold about to feed the dog, but it might also be that Harold is going to eat that dog food.
Yeah, I mean, Harold's kind of a hunched over weirdo, so yeah, who knows?
No, it's a really, really nice sequence. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, whatever. I don't know. Like, does he get just retconned out? Like, did he ever get written out?
So at a certain point, they just stopped using Harold.
Yeah.
Like he just goes away. And I don't know. I have not read enough of 90s Batman to know if there's an actual farewell Harold issue.
Yeah.
Or if they just new creators just had no interest in using Harold and they quietly forgot him. But Harold comes back in Hush, and we learn that he has betrayed Batman.
Oh, that's
because
right.
He's all been out of shape
Ugh.
because of how things went down. Yeah, Harold makes poor choices after this. Yeah, so
Bane shows up to jail, tells where his goons are, and says, "Hey, I need more Venom." Doesn't break him out, which I absolutely love.
I did too. These cells are wild. Like, why are they open air? Like,
so he can bleed all over them.
I don't get it.
So it can stand on top of them.
Zombie's
Yeah.
bald head.
Like in the last one, like why did it have? They all had like glass walls. It looked like Magneto saw at the end of X-Men, but there was a sunroof so that Batman could drop that stuff down and let them know that they were getting busted out. It's like, these are bad cells.
Better question is, does
it's just like a
Bane-
shark cage?
Is he breaking in here because these guys are just like, he thinks they might have some venom in their pants or something? Or like,
It's like
hey,
where'd you put the
Trog has
venom?
got some
Where
in
did you
his-
hide the venom?
yeah, Trog's got like, army pants on him. Maybe in that cargo pocket, there's some venom in there you forgot about,
Tyrone
bro.
Biggums, like,
I need a hit, dude. Yeah.
He said, but I mean, there is a line where where Zombie says, "I have supplies cached in several locations."
Sure.
The largest is in the liquor warehouse we took from Tough Tony. So he's coming to say, "Hey, Zombie, where is the?
Where do we stash
Yeah.
the venom?
We get a few panels of him juicing up, and again, goddamn Jim can only draw Bane head on, and that mask looks just awful.
Neck looks like it's not like
Yeah.
you can't draw the neck as like the same color because it looks like the mask is just part of the neck.
Yeah, it looks like it's floating on
Yeah,
top
you're
of,
right.
of
Absolutely
this
right.
huge,
Yeah, it doesn't
huge
look like
body.
it's attached to his body.
No.
It is nice of them to show us just how stupid the metalhead costume really is. Even when shown side by side with the ninja outfit, the metalhead outfit is somehow dumber.
Oh, you're talking about Metalhead who had the spiked ponytail.
Yeah, that's
That Metalhead. Okay.
Metalhead is who inspired Bane,
Yes.
Jean Paul's ninja.
Jean
outfit.
Paul's, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and again, we don't see much really go on new with Bruce and Alfred. Then Bane goes back to essentially, I think, where he threw Bruce's body off, like the sort of Times Square of New York or of Gotham, kills the guy who's in charge of the sign. There's just a sign with one guy like typing in stuff, which is hilarious.
That's his job.
But for some reason, it's a whole command center just to run that.
Just
one
to write in some, yeah. And so he kills the guy, and then Robin goes down to the Batcave, finds some image drawings, and says, "You've got to be kidding."
Bane shows up and he's like, "This will show him for a
Which I
good
get-
time. Call Batman 1-800-EAT-FARTS." It's like, aha, I've got you now, Batman.
I love that the Robin's "You've got to be kidding" when he sees Batman's costume. It feels very meta, like
Yes.
Jim
We're
comment on,
all thinking it.
Like, this is really what we're doing.
this is really what we're doing, guys. Yeah. So then we go to part 2, The Descent, which opens on a splash page of the new Batman costume, and I don't give a fuck. It is sick.
I
It's
hate it.
fucking awesome.
I hate it
page.
so
I
much.
hate the costume, but that is sweet.
I could not hate this costume more. It is so this is like the most 90s thing that ever 90s.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know.
It's just-
It is, but it rules.
Oh my god.
But when it's drawn well, like this is a great drawing.
Oh god.
Great
Oh,
drawing.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
And I get it.
Beautiful.
They want to say, this is not your Batman. This isn't your dad's Batman. This is the new 90s Batman, bro. Like, okay.
And it's amazing. I love it.
So we've switched to Mike Manley, who,
Yes.
Yes.
no offense to my beloved Jim Aparo, is a much superior modern artist.
I honestly remember seeing this art and being like, this is fantastic, but I can't remember much else that he did during this time.
Mike Manley never really had a huge career.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
He draws the hell out of Batman. So Bane hijacks the sign in Gotham Times Square, types Batman now with Batman in quotes, which I love because he's like, Batman quote.
Okay, Batman.
He's just laughing while he's doing it.
Right.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. And then they don't really waste any time. Batman is like, all right, let's do this. Batman shows up and they brawl, and it's fantastic.
It is
I
great.
mean,
It's a great fight scene.
great fight sequence. It's brutal. It's long. There's not a lot of like boy, I can barely, he's got me, old man, get up. Like none of that normal Batman stuff where
Nope.
Bruce is narrating. It's just like crunch. after
Violence.
crunch.
Lost the city.
So quick aside, since I'm still thinking about it, Manly does become the ongoing Batman artist through Night's End or Night Quest, I guess.
Does he?
So I think you were right in your assumption there, John, where part 1 is very much a farewell to the past and part 2 is an intro to what's going on farther or past this. But Mike Manley just went on to do illustration and he worked in animation and now he draws the ongoing Phantom comic strip.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good for Mike Manley.
Yeah.
I love.
So he's still out there doing his thing. He transitioned away from comics.
I love his Bane jumping through the sign, like flying all
Landing
the
on
way
the
down.
car.
Yeah, literally like jumps through the sign, off the building, falls all the way down to the street, and lands on a car.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Tough
It's
as
rad as hell.
nails.
Yeah. Yeah. Him dropping on the car is fantastic.
Yeah.
So then Batman and him sort of say, all right, let's do this. The cops are like, let's let him fight, which is.
Yeah, this is that by the book guy who I thought had a bigger role in the Batman books back then. But I mentioned him in the previous episode where we meet this cop that's just like very by the book.
Yeah.
And he's like, is Bane doing anything for which lethal force is authorized? And the cop's like, well, no, but, and then he's like, then we just let it happen.
I mean,
Yeah.
I would argue you still shoot him, right?
I mean, not with a sniper though.
Why?
You know? I don't know.
Why? Because Bane's proven to be so cool before this, or like what? No,
You should
look,
try to
I just-
arrest him.
you take
He's on
that
drugs.
shot. You take
True.
that shot, and you kill Bane if you can do it.
But Joe,
So
I
he
think
does.
you're right.
You know
I
what he
think-
does? He does say, but that's Bane, the guy who broke the Batman, and the cop says, and maybe he'll do it again, and then we'll act when the vigilante has failed, and then we'll see how Mayor Kroll feels about the book.
Yeah.
And so he's like, if this new Batman does not stop
Doesn't
Bane, we'll be able to show the mayor, hey, your plan to let these vigilantes run rampant is bad.
Yeah.
I think you're right, though, Joe. I think he does have a bigger role, like through Knight's Quest.
Yeah, probably.
I think that's probably where we see him because I think I totally remember him being around more than he has been thus far.
Same.
So Batman shoots batarangs into Bane's arms. That's badass.
Doesn't even bother him. He
This
just
is my
catches him.
favorite moment. This is my favorite moment in all of Nightfall, where Bane is like, you're pretending to be Batman, change the costume. You're still nothing. I know that you're not him. Jean-Paul says, no, I'm not him. I'm a lot more and a lot worse. I'm a lot like you, Bane, except I've stopped my fall just short of the bottom. Then Bane says, Gotham is mine. It's in my pocket. And then Jean-Paul says, prepare to be mugged.
Yeah.
And then shoots it with the razor batarang. It is so fucking tough. That is my favorite moment in the entire story.
That's pretty 90s, I'll say that.
Mine is only a few pages later, and it's when Bullock yells, "Yeah, better than Rocky." That line is burned into my brain reading it as a kid. Just so amazing. And yeah, they basically just fight it out. It's fantastic. Bane gets his mask ripped, and you can kind of like see the desperation in his face. They do a really good job of drawing that. The fight goes on to a train when Bane throws a train conductor in front of the train, which is brutal. Batman jumps into the glass and they continue their fight. Batman completely ignores the civilians, the passengers on the train, because he can't be bothered to help them. Robin eventually shows up and helps them. The train goes off the rails and crashes into a building in a vibe very reminiscent of Batman Begins. I assume
Big
Yeah.
Boyer and Nolan took a lot from this. Batman nearly
He gets in, Jean-Paul gets in a real good nut shot.
he does kicks him in the
Gives him
nut.
a choof with it's very satisfying choof.
He blinds him with the light on his chest, which is cool.
Yeah.
So Batman nearly kills Bane, and Robin and Gordon are both like, don't do it, don't do it. Bane even asks him to kill him, which is cool, but he says he won't do it. And he sort of leaves him there. And the issue ends with Robin giving him a compliment and being like, yeah, you did it. You are Batman. And Jean Paul's like, thanks, kid. And then just like leaves him, which is, I think, awesome.
It's cool. But before that, a couple pages before that, he's just beat him up and he's standing over him. And Bane's like, no, you're broken, Bane. Blackgate Prison can hold the pieces. And Robin's like, yes. Oh, whoo. He's not going to slit this guy's throat in front of the cops or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what this whole
and then
last
Gordon
moment's about, because the cops are.
But then Gordon looks at him.
Also saying he won't do it. I don't care what Bane did to him. He'll never kill.
Then Gordon looks at this Batman and goes, I don't know. Maybe that is still Batman. No.
And then like
No, dude.
Robin is thinking to himself, begging Jean Paul to overcome the system.
That was the only thing I didn't like. Was like you've got, if anybody, James Gordon knows this is not Batman. I don't know.
I mean, you got to have that ambiguity. You got to let that in. You know, Bullock says, hey, the gloves ain't completely off, but with gloves like that, it's worse leaving them on. That's a good point, Bullock.
That's a great line.
Thanks, Harv.
You know how serious this fight was? This fight is so serious that Bullock put his food down. Think about that.
There are no donuts.
All right. He is not eating. That's how serious this bout is.
Yeah, it's true. I think it's a great ending. I think the moment of Jean Paul overcoming whatever programming is driving him to kill Bane, despite what every instinct is telling him to do, what Bane is asking him to do, he's like, nope, I'm Batman. And everyone is like, thank God.
Well, and that becomes the whole battle, the Batman versus the system in his head.
And then in Night Quest, I'm pretty sure he just murders a dude pretty early on.
Yeah, he starts losing that battle.
I might be remembering that wrong, but I
started
started
reading. Die.
Yeah, he lets
a man die.
But we'll get there. We'll get there.
But I think that this is. I think Batman 500 is fantastic. I think it's a wonderful issue.
It is, and up to this point, look. As much as I don't like this costume and stuff, I get what they're doing, and we have not stepped over any like real boundaries yet. We haven't done anything so egregious that it's just like, oh, come on. What? We are not reading Batman anymore. What are we doing? You know?
I mean, there are definitely some elements where
it's a good payoff. It's a good payoff.
You know, it's all form and no function, you know, like the weird scout, the weird like bat wing flares coming off of his pant legs. Like those don't look like they're hard enough to hurt anybody. And, you know, his shoulder pads aren't so big as to be unbelievable. So credit for that, I guess.
Sure. I mean, they're ridiculous. Don't get me wrong.
Well, I mean, they're not. Like, if you consider Rob Liefeld was drawn Cable's shoulder pads about 3 times his size.
True. This is true.
Well, and as Night Quest progresses, he changes it. This is not the final form.
No, it gets more ridiculous. Way more ridiculous.
Like just like Goku. It's not Batman.
He looks more like Azrael. By the end,
he starts slipping into full Azrael, and like it's like introducing colors into the Batsuit and shit. Where it's like, oh god,
red.
Like no,
there's no blue anymore.
No. Yeah, it's just red and gray. So what does everybody? We did it. What does everybody? Does part 2 hold up to part 1?
I'm still on board. I still had a lot of fun. It's still
I think that the second half of the trade is actually better. I think that the first half of Nightfall has way more like pointless issues. Like I know I think the pointless issues in this are better than the pointless issues.
Okay. I agree with that.
I'll give you that. I think they're just as pointless.
Way worse than the Two-Face one on this.
Yes. Yeah. Just as pointless.
I think that 3-part
better.
Scarecrow story is great, and it has nothing to do with. It has nothing to do with the Nightfall storyline other than the fact that Jean-Paul Valley is Batman.
Right.
Like there's no forward plot momentum to Nightfall in that. But I think that the asides are better in the back half of Nightfall than they are in the front half of Nightfall.
Agreed. Just as pointless, but better.
Well, it's still too long because it's labeled as 16 parts, but it's 16 parts, 19 parts. Jesus. 19 parts, not counting 3 unnumbered chapters.
Yeah.
And then the breakout issue is not numbered at all. And so that makes it 24 parts.
Oh wow. That's more than I thought.
Good God.
It didn't need to be that long.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's too long. I'm still on board, but it's too long.
What do you give it a?
I give it a buy it so far.
Buy it.
This is a buy it for me.
Yeah,
I really loved this. I really loved. I think overall, Nightfall is great.
Yes.
Up to this point.
Success.
Up to this point, yes, it's a buy it. Up to this point.
Fantastic.
Well, I mean,
and Nightfall's done.
we're
This is it.
judging
Nightfall's done.
Nightfall. This is it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
fair
yeah.
enough. So
Yeah, I think rating Nightfall as a whole, Nightfall is great fun.
yeah,
Love it.
totally
Love it.
agree. Totally agree. It just, I guess knowing where it goes, you can color it in your head and go.
And there's also like a whole lot of stuff that doesn't hold up to today's storytelling standards.
Sure.
That's fine.
But, you know, you kind of have to. I'm not saying you put your critical judgment aside when you look at old things, when you watch old movies, whatever. But you have to at least make allowances for the fact that storytelling styles have changed. Our
Sure,
tastes have
sure.
changed. We're in a different
Right.
place in our lives. And
30
it's not
plus
going
years
to,
ago.
like, we're going to see it through a nostalgic lens, but also like for somebody like me who's never read Nightfall up until this point, I still had a great time.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
It's great Batman
And-
stuff.
Yeah.
And you'd expect them to pull off some shenanigans, like, and then the Joker shows up and he's nowhere to be found. Like,
Barely.
it's
Yeah.
great.
The Joker is barely in Nightfall.
Such
really.
a side character. Like,
Yeah.
if even that.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
In fact, I think
Yep.
they gave Two-Face a bigger spotlight just in those issues than the Joker had in any of this. Really.
totally,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Which is
Firefly.
wild.
Well, I mean, there's
Firefly,
there's
yeah.
the Joker Scarecrow team
Scarecrow.
that really went nowhere. I guess
Yeah.
I guess the Joker is sort of responsible for setting up the climax of the first act, the breaking of the bat. Like,
Yeah, the flood
because
really wears
the
out.
flood
Batman.
and like I think that Joker does have a role to play, but he's certainly not the primary villain at all.
No, Bird has a bigger role than Joker.
Bird is a bigger part of
Bird's
Bird.
bird.
yeah. Bird's Bird has a bigger part than the Joker. Bird's
My
Bird
hat is
named,
funky.
and Bird's Bird,
hat
as
is
we know,
monkey for
is also named Bird, which I think is interesting. So- all right, Night Nerds, thank you so much for your service. It's time
Thank
for us
you.
to
Yeah.
now that we've taken
This is
back the
wonderful.
night, we can disassemble. But for how long? We'll have to shine the light again.
The
Yeah.
quest is coming.
yeah. The bat.
Yeah, that's right.
The Night Nerd
The
symbol
mission.
will once again.
The quest may take
shine in
3
the sky.
recordings because it's so long.
The mission
God.
continues.
Long and
This.
I don't know if I can do it. Oh my God.
You can
Valentine's Day.
Ned, the thing we always need content, Ned.
Lord.
You can do it.
Excelsior!
That's it for THN 767. Next week, new comic reviews and picks return. But if you want new comic reviews and picks of the week every new comic book day, watch twoheadednerd.com for our reviews and join our Discord. Follow us on Insta, the Faces book, the Blue Skies. You know how it's done. Follow us on our socials. Want to talk about Nightfall or anything you're reading this week? Join us for the THN Gang Hang on Saturdays, 11 o'clock Central. More information on that at our Discord. If you're new to the show and you're calling the Jim Aparo fan club right now to tell them everything you heard, I assure you, we are fans of Mr. Aparo and you just have not heard enough. The good news is you can hear the entire run of the THN in our digital longbox archive at twoheadednerd.com. THN, you didn't hear no ads because it's a listener-supported podcast. It wouldn't be possible without the generosity of donors like our new patron and longtime friend, Mr. Mike Lee.
We used to sell Mike comics like 20 years ago at Krypton.
It's true.
And then he found us again through the podcast and the Discord.
And we're not exactly
reunited, and it feels so good.
Yeah, we're not exactly hiding anymore. After things blew over with the mob, we were going to come back out, use our real names.
Yeah.
and stuff, you know.
We got to move away from witness protection.
If you want to be a patron, just like Mr. Lee, it's easy to support the show. You can sign up over at patreon.com/twoheadednerd. Next week, our extra, we're going to be answering some listener questions on our Ask a Nerd segment. Do you have a comic question? You need some two-headed nerd expertise? Post it in our Ask a Nerd section on the Discord or shoot us an email, and we will gladly make up an answer that you may or may not like.
Before we go, our weekly shout out goes to comic book artist Arthur Nichols. Old heads like us might know him better as Art Nichols. Art died of cancer this week. Nichols was Neil Adams' personal assistant and went on to work on Magnus Robot Fighter, Star Wars, Punisher, Spider-Man, X-Men, Conan, Justice League of America, and Night Thrasher, just to name a few.
I threw Night
That
Thrasher in
cover-
just for you.
Thank you very much. Word to you, Mr. Nichols. Thank you for your talent and your service and for giving young Joe Quesada his first job.
I did not know that. Yeah, he hired Joe Quesada. Until next time, true believers, remember to pre-order your comics or your retailer might just show you his new Magnus Robot Fighter skirt and those gams that are under there. This is the Two-Headed Nerd, signing off. You don't see a lot of Magnus Robot Fighter cosplay these days, do you? You know?
No, you do not. No, you do not.